Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, also writing as Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Delicious. Had to swallow some more of that. Today is Tuesday, August 19th. Um, and we're coming up on my birthday. My birthday is on Friday, so we'll do a Friday birthday podcast, I think. Hopefully, I'll have time because I have to be down at Bubonicon this weekend. So if you're in the Albuquerque, New Mexico area or want to be, I will be at the con all weekend. It should be fun. I'm going to be Toastmeister. And special guest is Joe Haldeman, guest of honor, and also Delilah Dawson. And so I will get to interview them and we'll be on some panels and we'll be hanging in the bar. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. Should be very fun. And then I am done with cons for a little while. Not completely done with travel. Very exciting news for those of you who follow the personal side of my life. Uh, my mother is going to come visit in September. She's going to come stay in the casita. I'm going to drive there Labor Day weekend and deal with a whole bunch of tax stuff. This will be, since my stepdad died in March of 2024, this will be the last time that we're doing a joint filing for them. We got an extension, obviously. So my stepsister and I still need to sit down and do like authorizations with all three of us at the table to like get some paperwork done. Always exciting, but that'll be great to get that done. And then I will bring my mom and her kitties back with me to stay in the casita, and I'm really excited. I think she's looking forward to it too, getting out of the heat and get to spend some time together. And I think it's going to be really, really nice. So let's see what else. Oh, and then I'm taking her to her high school reunion in October. But I think this is all of my like writing travel for is going to be done. So, those of you waiting for Magic Reborn, I don't know, cover your faces, look away. I'm sorry, it's probably going to get delayed because I am revising Among the Thorns yet again. I did get to meet with editor Allie, and we had a really wonderful lunch. It was super fun to get to meet her. She is tall. I was guessing she was going to be tall. This is the one thing that's really deceptive about Zoom meetings is you never know how tall people are. Everybody is the same height on Zoom, right? You know, we're all the same uh, from the waist up. Some people you could tell that they're I don't know, you get more of that stretch of their body, but not everybody can you tell. And she is, yeah, much, much taller than I, which isn't saying a lot. As for those of you who have never met me, I am not tall. I am 5'4", but often I'm wearing heels, so that helps. That's part of the reason I wear heels. So, yeah, it was really great having lunch with her and and then had coffee with her and Debbie Pillay. I found out it's Pillay. I always say Pillay. Debbie Pillay. And it was great for Debbie to sit down and spend some time with me. And Debbie had read the uh, the latest version of Among the Thorns and had thoughts, had some revisions for me. Allie had not yet read it. So, uh, yeah, it was funny because Debbie told me, and they're they're fairly large changes. She felt like it started too slow, and so I'm ending up cutting off. I asked her where she thought the story started, and she told me, and um, and she also wanted the ending to be a little different. So those are, I mean, I think they're going to be fairly straightforward changes. I already started in on them yesterday. What's funny is that Debbie Pillay is apologizing to me for having critiques on the book. And I'm like, I just got a dev edit from the great Debbie Pillay, and it was really good because she was fresh to the book, so she was able to give that outside perspective the first walking in, because we had changed it a number of times. And so then afterwards, Allie and I got to sit down together, which was great, and look at the book and uh, see where the changes could be made. And as I suspected, it's kind of funny because what I'm doing is I'm lopping off the first three chapters, and which I did it yesterday. I just went ahead and cut them, which was almost 12,000 words, which brings the book down to 115,000. So it's still a long book. Uh, and I'm going to weave in a lot of that backstory. But Allie said a couple of things. One, she pointed out uh, that now it's starting where I had originally started the book, which is, I don't know, funny. It's this whole, like working with an editorial team. Uh, yeah, anyway, it's starting where I originally started. And she also said, like maybe I needed to write those first three chapters just the um, to get those characters solid in my mind. And it's something that happens sometimes. Sometimes you have to write those things and then take them out again, and it goes back to being the part of the iceberg that's under the surface of the water. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, that's the analogy of the iceberg where only the tip shows above water and the huge part of it is beneath, is how you do world building and storytelling. You don't want to describe the entire iceberg to everyone because that's it's not an effective way to tell stories. But you do have to know it. It has to be there. You can't have just like little iceberg tips floating on the water. I guess you could. I don't know. What would happen? They'd tip over? Part of them would sink? I really don't know. It's a funny image, though. I'm picturing all of these little iceberg tips floating around. So I'm really happy to have gotten the feedback because I want this to be the best book it can be. And changing the ending feels right. I feel like all along I had been working towards this ending that Allie had asked for. That was, it was like one of the things she had said from the beginning that she wanted. And I think I was really trying to force that ending, which it just doesn't work that way. I don't know if it's especially me as a writer, but I just could not make that ending happen. And the ending that Debbie suggested is so much better. And it feels right. It feels good. And it's kind of funny because, and this will be exciting for those of you who loved Never the Roses, Allie had asked me at lunch, like, she kept it open, but she's like, if there's to be a book three, what did I envision? And I told her how I envisioned it starting, because I have my opening image, which is generally where all of my stories start. I almost always start with a character and a situation. And so I had that image of that character and situation. And she loved that idea. So then, interestingly enough, when we talked about the changed ending, I talked about how that could morph into how I was talking about book three starting. And I love this. It's epic, people. It is so epic. And I think you're all going to be really happy with it. I'm happy with it. So yeah, yesterday I lopped off those first three chapters. I reworked chapter one. I think it's working. Now I am working on chapter two, and we'll see. And yeah, but yeah, and so this is a thing, and I know I've told this story before, but for those of you who are new to the podcast and for those of you who need to hear it again, because this is one of those recurring themes, recurring lessons in my life as a writer, is that figuring out where to start is one of the hardest parts. And it doesn't get easier. So, like, this is going to be my, uh, well, I have 68 published titles, right? So this is something like the 69th book I've written, except some of those were shorts and novellas. But anyway, that gives you some perspective, right? I am an experienced writer at this point. OG, old granny. And there was a time that another author and I'll just say that it was Dorinda Jones, who is fabulous and a New York Times bestselling author and critically acclaimed, award winning, immensely popular, all of this kind of thing. And, oh, hang on, I have to rescue the cat. He wanted to come in. So if you're on video, you can see Killian here at the edge of the screen drinking from my water glass, of course, as cats do. So let's see, what was I saying? Oh, I was telling this story, right? So Dorinda and I judged a contest it was a fundraiser for our local chapter. And we, it wasn't, I'm sorry, I take it back. It was not a contest. It wasn't, we judged. We offered critiques. So Dorinda and I independently read first 3 chapters of another gal's book, and she paid for it with the money going to the chapter, right? So we thought this could be a great fundraiser, an opportunity for people to get their work read by authors farther down the road, and then also generate funds for the chapter, which we needed. So then Dorinda and I got together and discussed, and we wrote up our notes on the chapter. And the principal thing we agreed on was that the book started in the wrong place. And we made suggestions. We said, here's where we think it should start, which is, I'm going to remind you all, just for emphasis, is precisely the conversation that I just had with Debbie Pillay, right? Where Debbie said, it's too slow, you're starting in the wrong place. I think the story starts here. And often it takes an outside person to tell you that. Which it's one reason why objective readers can be so important. And when I say objective, I know that many, many people don't agree with me on this, but I think you should also have objective readers who are people who don't love you. Okay. And people will get upset with me about this because they'll say, well, my spouse is my first reader and they're great, or my mother or my dad or my sister, and they read everything I write and they're really great. And it's like, well, that's awesome. I'm glad. But also, they love you. They love you. And that gets in the way. Well, now he wants out of my office. Hang on. So that's one reason why it's really great to have someone like Debbie who, A, wants my book to succeed because it's part of her house, but also Debbie doesn't love me. we get along great. She had a great shade of purple lipstick on, and we talked about lipstick, which kind of goes back to what I was saying on the podcast the other day about what I love about working with women is that we can have these. We also had some kind of hardcore discussions about the publishing industry and some of my thoughts about it coming from the SIFWA perspective. So we talked about my book, publishing industry, and lipstick. And to me, it's amazing. I love that. So anyway, so Dorinda and I critiqued this book. And I mean, we spent a lot of time on this, right? And there was this immense backlash because the author was very upset. And she had one published book, but other members of the chapter were coming up to us and saying, how dared we tell her the story started in the wrong place? She was a published author. And it's like, I'm sorry. And she was traditionally published, for whatever that means. It's meaningless. It's meaningless. This idea that somehow you know what you're doing just because you've published once or 68 times. Each book is different, and finding where the story starts is one of the most difficult parts. Um, and I mentioned, as we were having this conversation too, that uh, people complain that my books start slow. I see that critique a lot. And Allie immediately jumped in and she said, sometimes you need that to set the tone of the book, which I think is absolutely true. And I have brought that up. Um, I know I've talked about it on here before that, like Never the Roses, people say it's got a slow opening, and it does have a slow opening because that's setting the theme of the book, it's setting the tone. And it's not for all readers. No book is for all readers, but uh, it's very important to get that. The opening of a book sets your expectations for the rest of the book. So, starting with, wham bam action is great for some books, but it doesn't work for every book. And it's not the story that we all want to tell, right? So, um, but anyway, it is kind of funny that I'm going back to, I think even yesterday I set like my original opening line. So there we are. And I went back and looked at notes, and actually nobody had told me to change that opening line. There had been other editorial notes, and I had made that decision. So, so anyway, we decided that since Allie had not yet dug into this most recent version, that I would go ahead and make these changes before she goes through, and then hopefully she'll be able to tell me how this revision works. She said that she has book amnesia, that she doesn't really remember books, the iterations in between drafts, which is really helpful as an editor because, again, you want to come to it fresh. So, like, one of my huge concerns is by lopping off so much that I am leaving out backstory. And I think that Ali and Diana will be able to tell me so, and possibly Agent Sarah. She's excited to read it again. Uh, there's few things better than people wanting to read your books again. So, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about this, but it means that, like, maybe it was meant that I didn't really dig into Magic Reborn. Uh, but certainly when I do dig in, I am not going to have time to finish it in time for release. We'll see. It could happen. It probably won't. Such is life. All right. On that note, I am going to get to work. I hope that you all have an amazing week, and I will talk to you all on Friday. And you can all sing me happy birthday. You all take care. Bye bye.